Awesome. It's so great to get this information, and it's a little overwhelming at times, but it's certainly powerful. So let's bring up Rena Davis. Rena is a biochemist. She's got a lot of background and stuff we need to know about. Yep, right there is good. I was going to put you on the outside, then it'd be like the dating game, but I guess we won't do that. Dr. Norwood. Dr. Norwood is a surgeon and an ER doctor. And a good friend of mine and yours, Javier, our compliance officer. Javier, come on up. Yeah, your friend and mine. Well, the purpose here, and let me just start off by kind of defining, I think, something that's really important for all of us to recognize. And the way I talk about Laminine is really more as a responsible advocate, I would say, because I'm not a practitioner. I don't have all the initials after my name, all the letters to designate that I'm, a professional or certified to give that kind of information. And so how do we stay out of this, this death valley where we, it's very difficult, because when we have a product that's as efficacious, that does all the stuff that Laminine does, we want to start talking about what what our experience of that healing is, or how do we rephrase these things. And so it's really about understanding that Laminine is a mechanism that increases the health integrity of the body so that the body can be the miracle itself. And learning how to create a dialogue around that, I think, is really valuable. So one of I'd like to pose, I have a series of questions really for everyone here, and I'd like to start off actually with you, Dr. Norwood, because and I want you to talk a little bit, before we get into the responsible advocacy, which we're going to kind of weave around this conversation. You talked the other day, we were filming a PBS special, which is kind of neat. We're going to have something for people to talk about our product here in the near future, which is very exciting. But you talked about the body's ability to heal, or the healing mechanism, and what the body's capable of doing. And I think we're still we're still in awe. But maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Well, I think we were created by our Creator with tremendous healing capacities within our body. When I started out in medicine 48 years ago, the main emphasis was doing something to fix things. And of course, I was a surgeon. I would go in and try to fix things. The more I got into it, the more I realized that many times in our attempt to fix things, we were actually doing more harm than good. And now the tendency is to continue doing things to what I think is override the body's healing systems. And when we keep giving drugs, these drugs have the effect of actually dampening the healing process. And so I like to say that the healing process is kind of like letting your body take care of itself. I did some pilot training, and one of the things that we learned was when the plane is completely out of control and you're in a spin, you take your hands off all the controls. And the plane is designed to fly, and it will actually correct itself, and then you can take back the controls. But this is what we tend to do with our bodies. Instead of doing things to change our bodies, we need to let our bodies have what it needs to heal itself. And Laminine gives the body all of these components that we need to heal.
Let me further. That's awesome. So, how far can the body go? I mean, are we starting to venture into areas where we can see, limbs regrowing? I mean, how far can the human body go?
Okay, we've got some really interesting research going on now in the area that I refer to as regeneration. You have all seen Star Wars, I'm sure, and you remember how Luke Skywalker had his arm cut off, and then they had a process where they put the arm in a healing medium, and he actually grew another arm. Well, this is true actually in nature. If you cut off a salamander's arm, it will actually grow another arm. They're actually doing research now to show that the human body can actually grow parts back that were lost. Now they're actually working on fingers, but I see the future is going to be really dramatic, and it all relates to stem cells. Stem cells are the key for all of this new development.
Oh, fantastic. That's exciting. That's very exciting. Rena, from a biochemical standpoint, and I know that everyone's body chemistry is different, and one of the things that's been interesting to me in watching people's experience with Laminine is that for some people it's immediate and profound. For other people it's very gradual. For some people it might be a progressive experience. So maybe from a biochemical standpoint you can speak to that a little bit on why, why the variance, why is it so significant?
Am I on?
You were on.
I'm on. Well, we're not bioidentical. Each of us are unique. And unfortunately, we're humans. In the world of all living life, plants and animals included, your ability to perceive is about that big. In fact, one of the most amazing things about humans is our ability to filter out things. We can live in houses with 7 cuckoo clocks, and after a few days, we don't even hear them. We sleep right through it. Our ability to be able to do this is one of our great abilities to thrive and survive. But how many of you realize that this solar system that we're living in is moving through the universe at close to the speed of sound? Are you feeling that? Are you aware of it? No. But are the plants and many of the animals around us? Yes. So part of it, I think, is perception. And part of it is what condition are we in? Some of us aren't sick. And other people have a tremendous physiological burden. So the way I explain it to my clients is imagine that you're a 1-ton truck. And if you're half sick, you're half loaded, and you hit a 30% incline, and by golly, you're going to pop out of 5th into 4th and 4th into 3rd, and every time you're going to pour on the gas to get the load over the hill. Well, you know what? It's really the same in your nutritional bank account, isn't it? When we have a greater duress from allergies or from worry or for lack of sleep or growing a new baby, that nutrition bank account not only needs to get up, but it's going to get spent faster. Laminine finally gives us a tool where we can provide that nutritional bank account all the way across the board. All the A's, all the B's, all the C's, all that, and one other really amazing factor, and that's proteins. When I went to school and understood a protein, I knew that the day was going to come where modern science and healing, as a good doctor has just shared with you, is going to turn to these things called proteins. What's a stem cell? It's a protein. What's a hormone? It's a protein. What's a neurotransmitter? It's a protein. What's an enzyme? It's a protein. How does the body communicate with every other cell in the body? Proteins. In fact, we call proteins the building blocks of life because they are the only nutrients that hold information. In fact, it's how your immune system learns. Mothers know this, right? In our bodies, when we produce a baby, in the first 3 days of mother's milk, we have what? Colostrum. And colostrum is chains of proteins that hold that baby's genetic information with illness. As far back as the chain has not been broken. Our bodies can produce proteins that teach our immune cells who the bad guy is, who the good guy is, and how to get the job done. So we've arrived at a moment in time, and I think many of you know it. Raise your hands if you do. Don't you know that feeling that we have landed on something so valuable that's never been here before? And you're being given the opportunity to share it. I probably took too much time. Don't want to give me the mic too often.
That's one thing about a scientist. They can be very long-winded because there's so much to tell. There's so much to tell. So here's a question for really the three of you, and that would be...
Keep the mic, smart boy.
That would be... But we know that this has had a great effect on the physical body. It's also had a profound effect on the mental and emotional body, the mental and emotional self. So how does that work? How can it bridge these things? And Dr. Petrosino, you mentioned that it seemed unbelievable at first that it could be so broad. Mm-hmm. So how can we identify? Can we understand the impact on the mental emotional self as well?
Okay, I'll try and be brief. I promise. We want to all believe that the mood we're in today and what we want to eat and if we're tired or if we can't sleep has something to do with our personality. in reality, from a scientific point of view, and we can bend this if we want to get into quantum mechanics, one of my favorite new things, but we'll leave that alone for the moment. The truth is that you are who you are, the mood you're in, you are capable or not capable because of A, neurotransmitters, and B, hormones. They make it all happen. That's the ruling class of job body. That's the emperor in all of his clothes. And when you get an imbalance in those, and we have inhibitory and excitatory neurotransmitters, and we kind of have that same game in the hormone department as well. When we get those out of balance, we can't sleep, we lose our sex drive, we feel like our appetite goes out of control, or we can't eat at all, and it's all regulated by these chemicals which are made of proteins. So to me, we live in the most stressful time, I think, of our lifetimes. I don't think there's ever been a suppression of the world as significant as it is now. I don't think we've seen so many people lose their homes, their jobs, and their lives as we are seeing today. That means that we're spending, what was that chemical he just talked to you about that regulates mood, sleep, pain, and appetite? Serotonin, at a really rapid rate. And we don't make serotonin well. And we don't make it well because there is something called nutrient competition. Even though serotonin is very present in many of our foods, its ability to cross the blood-brain barrier, and millions of hours of research has been spent in this area, is inhibited by this thing called nutrient competition. Okay, so imagine a bus. And on this bus, it's like no other bus, not even the Disneyland bus you've ever been on, and every seat is a different shape. You got squares and triangles and dodecahedrons. And you know, the low glycine molecule, it can fit in any of them seats. But this little tryptophan molecule can only fit in one seat. So by as early as 1982, we knew the population was already serotonin deficient. Well, we're a lot worse now. We've been through 25 years of Prozac. It's off patent. What did it do? It helped you use your serotonin more efficiently. See, to me, that was really brilliant as a marketing strategy, but it seemed to be a lot more sense if we just gave you more serotonin. But then we wouldn't make the billions, would we? No.
Dr. Norwood, do you have some comments on that, on the mental emotional side?
Well, in the rest of the world, there's a phenomenon called the mind-body connection, where they understand that the mind has tremendous control of the body. Ancient Indian medicine, ancient Chinese medicine, all of the ancient medical traditions recognize that the mind has tremendous abilities to control the body and to heal the body. In America, we have put this aside. We've gone with the emphasis on chemistry, and somehow we've lost this concept. And then on top of that, we've thrown in poor nutrition. We've processed so much of our food that it's not even real food. It's like eating cardboard. And then we've thrown that, on top of that, all the stress that we're confronted with. I mean, you can't turn on the TV without your stress level starting to go up. And you go to a movie and they blow up everything, that's just stress. And all of that affects this mind-body connection. And one of the things we have to remember is the balance between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. And we're living in the sympathetic. It's like we're confronting saber-toothed tigers every day. Whereas the healing process occurs when we're in the parasympathetic phase. And I think that's one of the key things that Laminine does, is help put us into that parasympathetic phase. And I could go on for a lot more.
I know you can. Well, one of the things, we talked about this the other day, and that is that we are inundated with TV and sound bites, and that we've collapsed. Everyone's given the idea that we can make things happen in a 30-minute TV show. We go from, we lose 100 pounds in 30 minutes.
Right.
We get well over a very short period of time because of how it's projected to us in the media. So it's a journey. Is health not a journey?
It's definitely a journey.
So,
And it takes time.
yeah, it does take time. Let's shift gears here just a little bit because I want to talk.